Welcome back, SOSers.
Welcome back. Oh my God, look at y'all. You guys look so good.
Look at yourself.
Have you looked at yourself today? Look in the mirror. You're gorgeous.
Look at yourself. You're looking fine. Anyway,
it's all about self-confidence here because we're literally going to go into how low self-esteem artists, specifically actors, are in this fucked up world, in this industry where you're trying to find yourself and express yourself, but you're also being molded into a product that really is meaningless. And it's just, you're being told that by people who carry their own trauma and no one wants to talk about it, but we are.
we're here.
And we have an amazing guest. She graduated from the same college I did. I'm so lucky to know her, Brianna Rosado. She's a social worker who focuses on psychotherapy, and she was an actor. She was an actor that experienced the same sort of trauma that we're going to be talking about today, and decided to change the narrative and use that experience to help other people with the baggage that they could come from their artist life or whatever life and whatever background, age. And it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a good conversation. A really good one. So let's welcome Brianna.
Buckle up. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Brianna, for being here. It's been so long since I've seen your beautiful face. And I'm so happy that you're here to talk about something that Molly, I brought this up not long ago about the toxicity in the world, in the industry of acting. And I know I've been seeing a lot of it through TikToks and stuff like that, where people are starting to realize oh, actors are really vulnerable and fucked up, trying to figure out why. And I'm like, wow, this is my own reckoning, because I want to stay in the field, but I also have to kind of acknowledge what's fucked up. So,
and what I thought was interesting, Alyssa, when you even first brought this up to me, was you were talking about just the education system of people studying to be actors in school. You're not even talking, we all know Hollywood itself is messed up, and everyone, and there's a lot to dive into with that. And I know that's it's crossover with what we're talking about, but I wasn't aware of even that, you were going over acting exercises that you did in classes and just icebreaker exercise. I mean, this is foreign to me because I've never been involved in acting and so, that's what's really disturbing. And I think a lot of people don't know that because everybody knows, oh, Hollywood's a messed up industry, but you don't even think about kids in college in their theater class.
Yeah, in a university in Jersey, you know what I mean?
Right.
You're, no matter where you are, you're gonna feel, I don't know, I don't know if manipulated is too strong of a word, but maybe. But okay,
maybe not strong enough.
Before we get into all of the juicy stuff, I want to start with your SOS moment, Brianna. What is your SOS moment today?
My moment would definitely have to be right after graduating from college, as a musical theater major, and essentially realizing that after dedicating, the majority of my life to the performing arts, after dedicating 8 years on my professional training, because I also went to a performing arts high school. After dedicating 8 years, deciding I didn't want to be an actress. I didn't want to pursue this. I did not, it was not what I wanted to do long term. So definitely a huge,
self-identity.
Scary moment. Something that I had, like I said, had been really, a grounding point for me throughout my whole life. Something that, like you said, was part of my identity, right? To feel suddenly so disconnected from that was scary, and was a really tough point.
So what? And going back, obviously, we'll get into how that moment happened. To start, what were the reasons that you even wanted to pursue acting to begin with?
It's funny. I had actually said to Alyssa the other day that reflecting and kind of preparing myself to talk to you guys, I sort of realized how therapy and art has kind of always intertwined in my life since I was very, very young. So I'm an only child. grew up with, a family that did struggle with mental health. At the time, obviously didn't really recognize that. I was a kid. It was really something I didn't really begin to understand until later in life. But so, as a kid, singing and dancing and participating in school plays became my therapy. Like I said, I'm an only child, so I was kind of shy, it wasn't until like middle school, high school that I really started to come out of my shell. And if it wasn't for theater, wasn't for the family and friends that I created through theater, I really don't think I would be who I am or where I am. So I kind of found myself through those experiences. And in hindsight, that was really, a therapeutic kind of experience for me as a kid, helping me to come out of my shell, and just became hooked. Really felt that it was a strength of mine, and, everything just kind of clicked.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so interesting too, because once you find that kind of confidence in yourself, and you're like, wow, I'm expressing myself, and I'm finding people that have the same moments that I'm having, a metamorphosis of such, So the found family aspect of it is like adds to like the stakes. I don't know, like, do you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
It's like when you find like it's a family, like the people that you're in shows with, and the people that are in your class. Everyone's kind of going through the same thing, so you get addicted to it as in a communal.
Definitely.
Like it's crazy.
Yes.
And like with that, like, do you think, like, how long did it start taking you to kind of seeing like red flags when it came to the industry itself? This could have been in college. This could have been in just shows that you've been in since high school. Were there things that you were kind of noticing were like, this is giving me therapy, but this is also like making me want to go into therapy?
Right.
I'd say that definitely was not until college.
Okay.
Reflecting back on my experiences as a child, like being in dance classes, taking voice lessons, being in the performing arts high school as a teenager. I mean, up until college, all of those experiences were purely, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, just for my own passion and my own growth and my own connection with my friends. And, it only felt natural to pursue it in college because I knew nothing else.
Yeah.
I felt as though it was my biggest strength, and, I couldn't even imagine trying anything else, doing anything else. So it wasn't until college that I think it set in that there was this concept of an industry, and, maybe that's a fault of my own, or at this point it doesn't matter, but that side of it, making it my career, truly wasn't on the forefront of my mind, which, in hindsight was problematic, but is just kind of
how it goes,
how it played out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to get into, and you feel free to, like, if you're like not comfortable getting into specifics about like things, because I want the audience that like, that doesn't know what we mean by the toxicity of these departments and acting studios, and, forget about when you're actually in shows and what can happen on set or on stage, but like specific things that could happen, are things like at our alma mater. There was an issue with a lot of things. Fat phobia. There was an issue with racism, sexism, of course, homophobia. They would whitewash a lot of us. My personal experience was really rough because, I had a professor tell me and not tell me in the same way that I should dye my hair so I can be in a show that's a family of white people, so I can dye my hair lighter, so I can maybe be cast. And it didn't work anyway, because it's just, they had a very, very, I don't know, like specific way they wanted to tell it, which was a standard white version of storytelling for a lot of it.
Sure. Absolutely.
There were times where I won't say the teacher, but there was like an exercise, and I was telling Molly about this. This is fucked up. There was an exercise in an acting class where we had to tell insults to each other. Like we had to, there's two people standing up in front of the room, and you have to like insult the next person, and they use
in
that
front
insult
of the entire class.
in front of the entire class.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And I don't know if you did this. This one is just.
I don't think I did, but I can imagine it.
And it got fucked up. And this is a teacher that we all really trusted. Like this is a beloved teacher. This is not just the ones that were like are blatantly manipulative and blatantly abusive. This is like one that you fucking loved and trusted, but we didn't see how toxic this was. It got to a point where we had a white student and a black student up there, and our teacher just wanted us to go further, especially with those two. Let's go further, not going further with the insults. And we knew what she meant. And it wasn't until, and the white student was very uncomfortable, knew what the teacher wanted them to say.
Yeah.
And they said it. They called the other person the N-word. And there was no talk back afterwards. There was no.
That's huge.
Obviously with the black student, like there was no consent on their part to be told that. And there was no like digesting or processing what that fucking was. It was just, well, you're in the industry. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Take it. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wonder how like you feel about hearing that, and also things that you want to share that kind of are examples of the toxicity that kind of exist.
Yeah. I mean, I had experiences like that in the sense of just being super invalidated. How I felt about things didn't matter. You know, like you said, it becomes the industry. You have to suck it up. You have to figure it out. I mean, there were plenty of times where, you know, it was like we had done these really vulnerable, really difficult exercises, and then class was over and you had to just fucking go to Spanish and figure it out.
See, that's what I'm like. It's like really exploitative because it's like you don't. It's like you're diving into what you might need to address in therapy, for example, and yet you don't address it anymore. You're just like, there's one of your buttons, one of your triggers. Oh, look, you're really now, like you said, to go to Spanish, like just go walk away. That's really dangerous emotionally. And especially for anyone, let alone college age people.
Absolutely. And so I had a lot of experiences like that where, you know, I felt uncomfortable and just was told it was me, and that, you know, this was something I would have to get used to. The industry's tough. You have to develop a tough skin. And I really spent so many years believing it was me and my own inadequacy to handle it or to, you know, I mean, there was, so connecting to my SOS moment, I felt like there were a lot of little SOSs kind of leading up to graduating college. And, you know, speaking of feeling invalidated, a memory that always comes to mind is, you know, my sophomore year, I remember the vision that I had for my career, what it was going to be like, how it was going to go. You know, this vision started to crack, right? That I started to feel really disconnected from my work, from myself. And I decided to go and to speak to our program director about this, about feeling unhappy, feeling confused, not only about my place within the program itself, which is another topic of conversation about toxicity, but, you know, just feeling very disconnected. I didn't know where to go from here. And so I approached them about this and was literally told to get over myself. And they were like, you just need to suck it up. You just need to get through this. It's not going to last forever. You know, it's just a moment of confusion. You'll get over it. And their solution or their motivating their motivation tool to help me was to essentially pit me against my peers.
Yeah.
They were like, okay, who are some of the upperclassmen that you admire or that you look up to? Outdance them, outsing them, you know, compete with them specifically in class for roles, or, you know, if you're going across the floor in a dance class, you know, quite literally, you know, pitch yourself against them, compete with them.
What?
That was supposed to make me feel better. I left that meeting completely just even more confused, even more, you know, it just reinforced that this is me, something's wrong with me. I can't handle it, you know?
Such a mind fuck. Because like we're taught in these programs to create family. Like you are an ensemble, like, you know, and then you get told that you have to like compete with them and outdance and outsing and whatever the fuck. And it's just like, well, now I'm confused. Are they my family or are they my competition? You know, and you have to kind of navigate both.
Well, and it's interesting because by nature of a performing career like that, they are both. And that doesn't have to be unhealthy, because that's just like you're performing. I mean, if you're going for the same role, that's what competition is. But then when it's capitalized on by the instructors and the industry itself, it easily and quickly becomes toxic, because like there is a healthy way for creatives to feed each other and be family and competition. And that's what pushes you. But yeah, this is obviously very not that at all. And it's so interesting, because even in high school, I did, because I was in a small town, and so there were only so many outlets. I was never a musical theater fan, but there were only so many outlets for me knowing I want to sing. So I did, in high school, I did musicals, and it was always like, it's like a cult almost. Like there's just like everyone's really close, and everyone is also, it's so cliquey, it's so judgmental. It's you cannot break through. If I was always wanting to do R&B and like that kind of that was my thing. I'm not like a musical theater personality or voice even, but I loved singing more than honestly most of the people there. And so, but I was like always felt like judged or an outsider, or like, well, she's not really one of us. And it's like so weird, because I also that was my outlet. Like I loved performing, and I had also had music. One of the most awful people to me in my life was my music teacher in high school. I mean, like to this day, like the cruelest things that were said to me and done to me as someone growing up wanting to create. And it's interesting hearing it in the acting world, because I mean, I remember my freshman year of high school, we auditioned for the next year's choirs, and there was one choir it was like the top choir, you had to audition for it. So I had my audition, and it's just me and this woman, my teacher, in the room, and I finish, and she verbatim says to me, I will never forget this. She says to me, Molly, I'm going to be honest with you. That's probably the best audition I've heard, but I can't let you into the class because I have an issue with how you dress. And let me tell you, when I was 14 years old, I mean, I've always been thin, but I literally looked like an 8-year-old boy, had no curves. I wasn't showing off cleavage. I literally, my parents wouldn't let me out of the house with a skirt too short. Like those are and that was a woman.
They wanted you to like dress more like sexually. They wanted you to like
no. No, they thought I dressed too provocatively.
Wow.
So she was like, and she had issues. I wasn't like spending my lunches in the choir room. I wasn't a musical theater person, but that's what I wanted to do with my life. My whole life was singing. All I cared. But yeah, she thought she would give me a big shirt to put on when I walked in the choir room. She tried. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And so she tried to not let me audition for the musical because it was my grandpa's funeral, and my grandma's funeral, a lot of stuff. But
yeah, I mean,
I actually never really, I think about that all the time, but now hearing your guys' stories about the theater and an acting industry in general, I'm like, there are so many an industry itself, when you're in the actual professional industry, is messed up. But then we're just talking about the education system, and there are instructors that these young kids, like, it's all they have, especially when you're in high school and college, before you can even get out and live where you want to live. Like, I'm in a small town, and it's like, all I can do is be in choir, and there's one choir teacher in the town. Like, I don't have an option. And so you hope for the support from this person, and you're just like at their mercy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
It makes sense too. It's like the clickiness that happens because it's fucking real. It's like we're taught to have that mentality because it's so dog eat dog. Like, if you don't love it as much as I do, then you don't fucking love it. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, you're like,
Absolutely.
I fucking deserve that part because I want it more. You know what I mean? Like who are you? You're just the singer that wants to come and like, I mean, I get that. Like that fucking happens even in when that's your major. Like even in our own school, that would happen. It's just like,
Definitely.
oh, you want to minor in something else? Or you have other interests? Fuck you.
You're not
Right.
serious.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. You're not serious enough about it. Absolutely. And that clickiness, I think, also is problematic because it normalizes all of this really fucked up stuff because you're all in it together and you don't want to be the odd person out that says, I'm not comfortable with this, or I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And so it just continuously normalizes things that are unhealthy. I totally agree that you put your trust in these teachers.
Yeah.
That was a big thing for me too. It's just that, I wanted to trust my instructors. I wanted to put my faith in them that if I did what they said, if I came to class and really committed myself to my training, then I was doing the right thing. And it's just crazy to think that after class is over, that there's no accountability whatsoever for what happened in class. It's just class is over.
Yeah, that's a really fucked up. But there was like, there was like a moment where we had to do these like auto dramas. Did you have to do auto dramas?
I don't think so.
There was one where it was just like we had to do a performance about something crazy, like deep in our lives that happened, which is already like when you're an acting teacher asking that of somebody, it's like shit's gonna be exposed that you're probably not ready to deal with. And a student had gone into a very deep, fucked up suicidal moment in their life, and no one knew what to deal with it. There were breakdowns in the classroom afterward. There was no discussion about what was just presented. One student quit acting right there. He was like, I'm done. And this was senior year last semester. This was like,
oh my God.
This was, one was just like, I'm not acting anymore, literally from that performance. And we didn't know, we were shaking. We just didn't know what to do with that information. And we just left and went to Spanish. It was just like,
you figure it out, because if you don't, there's something wrong with you. You are not able to handle. Right. Absolutely. It's unreal.
Immoral and unethical to do those things to anyone, let alone like developing minds. And you're not a certified mental health, you're not a therapist, like you have these instructors, I mean, like no preparation to deal with what might come up from these, like, so that actually, I wanted to ask you why you personally, your SOS moment, and what really came down to you quitting acting and pursuing therapy.
So like I said, it was a combination of a lot of little things. I mean, being pitted against my peers, against the other women in the program, I was always uncomfortable with that. And then, as far as my own mental health went throughout school, definitely, there was a lot of anxiety, a lot of struggling with self-esteem, and just my own like relationship with myself, how I felt about myself started to become really problematic. And then I'd say senior year, as I'm sure, Alyssa, you remember, we had this big opportunity to take this like business of acting, or I don't even remember the name, but like some business class to really learn how to market yourself.
Which was like way too late too.
Yes, absolutely. And, I started I remember them kind of explaining the syllabus of the class, and like we were really encouraged to take it. And I remember them talking about how essentially you had to make yourself this product.
Mm-hmm.
And that really fucked me up. That whole concept of, okay, so I have to, regardless of my own personality and who I am as a person, I have to now market myself to please other people, because like another whole issue was that who I am and who I was told I should, like roles that I was told I should pursue were like this. Yeah. So, yeah, that was a huge thing for me, feeling as though, okay, now I have to essentially think of myself as a product that I am selling.
And not a human being.
And I chose not to take the class. And I was one of the only people in my class, in my graduating class, that didn't take it.
Good for you.
I couldn't do it. I was like, I really don't feel comfortable with that. I just
so you know, it was not helpful. And there's a lot of trauma that like even people in my class still talk about from that class because of what they're told. Oh yeah. They were just like, you have too much fat in your face. You're never going to make it. Just know that.
Are you for real?
I have a laundry list, like a laundry list. You're too gay. You're not, you're too gay. There's no way we can't make you straight for these roles. So like, you're going to have to work on how gay you are.
Oh my
Lord. Word for
Lord.
word. I'm not exaggerating. So you didn't miss out.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know in hindsight, but just,
So how are the things that you've learned while becoming a social worker, how have they changed your view on the industry? I guess your view was already that, and that's why you did it. But like, have you, in your work, have you had any really big epiphanies?
Sadly, yeah, I'd say the more I look back on it in hindsight, the more toxicity I see. I mean, I think about how, I mean, that experience that you had, Alyssa, with your peer who did a monologue or something about suicide or about a suicidal experience. I think back to, or I think about how there really should be a process, especially in the educational realm of things, where teachers need to get background information on students. Teachers need to get a mental health history on their students. It's incredibly inappropriate to be throwing such vulnerable, mature content at students who you don't know if that student has experienced trauma, has experienced sexual assault or rape,
or if they're currently suicidal.
Exactly. It could trigger.
Absolutely. There's no time taken to really, ask those really crucial, important questions. Like, you don't know if someone is battling depression currently or suicidal currently, or has it just, how dare you ask and have the expectation that you're supposed to be thrown into this, feel comfortable, being incredibly vulnerable and, out of your comfort zone in front of all of your peers, and you're expected to just deal with it, to just figure it out.
Yep.
So that's been a huge realization, is that, I was fortunate enough that I have never experienced that type of trauma or, serious difficulty with my mental health, but I don't know if my peers had. Maybe that had a huge impact on how they approached their classes. We don't know. We never will at this point, but, it's probably pretty common that, actors have had difficulty. And so that has a huge impact on how they approach their work.
Yeah. And you aim to incorporate, like you were telling me, like art and dance and all that into for your clients. And why is it so important to still keep that form of self-expression when it comes to therapy?
So this is definitely something I hope to do down the road. Right now, I am just conducting individual psychotherapy with adults, with kids, with teenagers. But my hope as, I get deeper into my profession is to really have the focus of my work be art therapy, music therapy, dance therapy, because I do feel that there is value in it. Absolutely. I mean, I think back to my own experience and how it really brought me out of my shell, gave me the confidence I needed to move forward in a lot of different areas of my life. It really guided me and helped me in more ways than I can count. So there are benefits to it, especially with children, especially with the special needs population. And I think it's also could be a really great opportunity for adults who maybe have never kind of dipped their toes into an artistic, field. So I just think that it is a really special way to learn communication, to learn self-expression, to learn self-confidence, self-esteem, to ease anxiety, depression, etc., to work on PTSD. I've been kind of diving into a little bit, I just started, about how those that suffer from PTSD they're starting to do research on how normal psychotherapy, talk therapy, they reach a wall where I don't want to talk about my trauma any longer. I don't want to, it's just like beating a dead horse. I don't want to talk about it any longer. And so we need to start to develop different techniques for helping people to cope with those symptoms. And I think, running around a dance room or, expressing yourself through a monologue or through music could be an incredible way to continue that healing beyond just normal talk therapy.
Yeah, it's so interesting too, because we're just talking about the how dare you of the whole thing with, dealing with something that's so traumatic for a student and then just leaving it there, and that's a lot of teachers. There was this one teacher where it was like, leave your baggage at the door when you come into my class. And then when you're doing a monologue, they're like, remember your grandmother died? Use that. It's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this?
Absolutely.
And so the conversations that I have with my close friends who were from the same school were just like, I feel like only therapists should be acting professors and teachers.
I feel like that's the case. What
do you think about that? Because I'm just like, I don't think the way the industry is now when it comes to acting conservatory studios, whatever, I don't think they're prepared to actually teach and guide a student in the acting world the way it is now. Do you think there should be this overhaul the way I'm imagining it? Or what do you think? What is the best way to go about this industry for actors today?
I definitely agree that there needs to be some, reconfiguration of how we approach acting programs. I think that, going through therapy or just having your simple processing group after a class, it should be necessary, right? Molly, you said a few minutes ago about how, there are healthy ways to go about it as an artist. I totally agree that within this really complicated industry, there are healthy ways to approach all of this, but it's absent. It's completely absent within programs. And so I think it should be absolutely necessary that after a class, we just have this group processing where if you need to talk about it, you can.
And maybe that's where a professional therapist comes in. The acting teacher doesn't necessarily have to be certified, but there needs to be not only access, I feel like, to therapy, but mandatory, like you're saying, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. That there needs to be that access, like you said. I think about how insane it is that the expectation that they hold students to, that you're supposed to be able to instantly access the most vulnerable parts of yourself on command without hesitation, on top of all the other layers of performing of memorizing your lines and the way that you look and your costume and the stage and the lighting and the direction and, you know, a million other things. On top of that, you're supposed to on demand access these really, you know, complicated emotions, and you're just expected to be able to turn it on and off whenever they want. And it's insane to me to think that you have this expectation that, okay, especially at such a young age, that you're supposed to be able to understand and replicate certain situations when most of the time these students probably don't even have that understanding of that. You know what I mean? Like, you
don't know yourself, and you're being told to use yourself for this other character. It's so for a catharsis. There's all this like emphasis on getting into character, but getting out of character is never talked about.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And it's so damaging. Before we let you go, I want to know, like, is there advice you would give to actors today about, you know, that, or maybe are listening to this or dealing with their own things of like, where do I fit in this industry when I notice toxic behavior? Do I continue, you know, this industry acting? Do I continue going to the studio? Like, what kind of advice would you give to those students or actors?
I guess first I would just say that you're not alone at all. I mean, that was really, like I said, a really difficult point for me, is that I felt that I was the only person that felt this way, which meant I must not be as serious as these other actors. I must not be as dedicated to the craft as they were, right? And just that you're not alone in feeling that way, that it's okay to admit that certain aspects of what you're doing make you uncomfortable or are confusing, and that it's okay to ask for help and to, you know, talk it out, process it. At this point, seek your own therapy. If you're in a show, in a production, you know, don't be afraid to admit that these experiences are having an impact on you, right? Because how could they not? How could they not? You know, and I think just really knowing that you're not alone and that it's okay to ask for help and to admit that, you know, or rather that admitting that you are having this issue does not make you any less professional, any less talented, any less able to pursue this as a career. I mean, when I decided to go into social work, that I was really scared I was going to be judged by my peers. I really thought, you know, oh, people are going to think I just gave up, or that I, you know, I couldn't handle this cutthroat industry. I couldn't handle it. And I really was scared to be judged by my peers. So I'd say don't be afraid to ask for help or to create your own opportunities to get help. And to also, you know, be mindful that every single thing that your teacher says, we don't have to take it as truth. It's okay to question it. It's okay to, you know, think for yourself. So often we see our mentors as, you know, on a pedestal, so to speak, and we really put our trust in them. And it's okay to question them. It's okay to, you know, disagree with them.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. And even looking at your mentors, I'm thinking of college wise, like, you know, the teachers that you're put with, it's like, I think it's important to, and they might be great mentors. They might have really valuable things to say as well. But I think it's really important to look at that and actually think about, okay, I can take what I can from this person, but do they have the career that I want? Or do they have the life that I want? And for me, I was like, well, no, I'm not trying to be like a professor. I'm not trying to, not that they don't have the qualifications, or they, like I said, they might have a lot of good things to offer. They might not. They might be all twisted like these people we're talking about. But I think it's important for college students, especially, you know, take things with a grain of salt and not discount them, but also like, I'm not trying to be sitting in a room like teaching 18-year-olds how to, like, I'm actually trying to win a Grammy.
I
So
think
I have to certain adjustments I have to make when you're telling me what life is as a musician, because your life isn't what I'm trying to build. While I can still maybe take things from you, it's just, it's hard to tell college students, like, your mentor, your teachers aren't everything, especially in the arts, because it's a family, it's a bonding community. It's not like the business school. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's
hard.
interesting that you say that, Molly. I'll make this fast too. But like, it's so easy to put them on the pedestal, like Brianna was saying, because they might use all that manipulation tactic. And you might agree with me about like, I know your grandmother died the other day, use that, or just like, whatever manipulation tactics to get you to that catharsis. And once that actor reaches that, it's addicting. Right? It's addicting to go back and be like, and see the stars shining out of that mentor's ass because they got you to that moment. Now you're addicted. And that teacher gets an ego boost right after that. So it's like, it's important to know that like this professor is not only manipulating you, but like you said, they're coming in with their own baggage too. They can tell us to leave our baggage at the door, but they've got their own shit.
And a lot of times, and this is like diminutive, so this is not everybody, but I'm thinking about like all the asshole professors we're talking about. A lot of times, the reason that somebody is an acting teacher or a music teacher is because they couldn't fucking make it in the industry.
And they'll use that against you.
And that's not the case for everybody. And I'm just really coming at some of the ones that I'm like, why are you trying to like break these kids down? And like, it's because you were broken down and then you decided to work at a university. Like
it's a domino
that's
effect.
Mean. But yeah, it is. It's and I mean, my dad's a professor, not of the arts, but I'm like, I say a million times, that's not everybody, but that is some of these people. And I saw it with some instructors where I was like, your bitterness that you're trying to like put onto these students about the industry, about the craft, or you're like, it's because of your own experiences. Like you said, Alyssa, it's your baggage. And so, yeah, Brianna, like taking on it's just, you're right. It's very important to separate that and like take into account what you need. And if you need help or if you're not okay with how things are going, it's not a reflection of you as an artist.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't think what they're saying is true.
Right. Or a person, right? That it's not a reflection of you being less than. You know? Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much again, Brianna. I am so glad to have had that conversation. We continued that conversation for a while after we got off because there's just like so much that went down that we didn't even talk about that like kind of can't, but we can. I don't know.
Right.
And it's good. Conversation can last a while. So if you have any questions and you have some personal experiences, please reach out to us.
Yeah. And also on the topic of extended conversations, if you guys join our Patreon, you'll have access to certain extended interviews, bonus content. Like we said, when we drop our merch, there will be special codes for those people. Please join our Patreon. For this episode, we wanted to shout out the Foundation for Art and Healing. It's a nonprofit organization that mobilizes partners and the public to embrace the arts as a proven path towards improved personal and public health. Rooted in medicine and science, they develop applications for utilizing creative arts expression as a remedy to national health issues. Through collaborative partnerships and innovative programs, they serve communities by providing arts-based programs and resources that improve well-being. To learn more and donate, please visit artandhealing.org.
Yeah. Follow us on Instagram at the SOS Pod. We're on YouTube, SOS with Molly and Alyssa. You can see all of our beautiful faces talking to. Brianna Rosado is literally Jennifer Garner's.
She does look like Jennifer Garner.
So there's that. But yeah, please subscribe to us, review us. It helps us reach more people. As Molly said before, we're on Patreon, y'all. Become a little patron for just a couple bucks a month, and you're going to get some goodies. We send you some goodies.
Yes, we do send you some goodies.
And they're
in
lovely.
The mail, personalized
for you. And yeah, like we love you guys. What else? I mean, please just let us know if you have any questions and concerns. Like I said before, like reach out to us. We'd love to hear your stories because you are the reason we do this.
You're not wrong. I'm Molly Cottrell.
I'm Alyssa Rosano.
And here's to turning meltdowns
into magic.